All right, we are looking at doing a quick review of 2x1 multiplication. Just a refresher before we go ahead and move on. So I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate these problems in all the ways that we know how to solve them. So we have this problem, 43 times 5. I want you to go ahead and solve this problem using the method that you are most comfortable with. So think back, what is the method that you used on your test? What is the method that you've been using to practice with in class? That might be partial products, that might be area model, that might be the distributive property, which is also partial products, or that might be the traditional algorithm. So go ahead and solve this on your own now. Okay, I'm going to model all three for you again, just as a refresher. So I'm going to solve this first with area model. So area model says that we are going to put this number 43 into expanded form and turn it into 40 plus 3. Area model is a very visual method of solving these problems. So I'm going to draw a rectangle and I'm going to divide it into two sections because when I put 43 into expanded form, I have two numbers. So I have 40 and 3, and I need to multiply each of those numbers by 5. So first I'm going to do 40 times 5. I know to look for my basic fact, so 4 times 5 gives me 20, and then to tack on any extra zeros, 200. Then I'm going to do 5 times 3, which gives me 15. Then I know to add these two numbers together, and I get 215. Okay, so that's how I solved it with the area model. The next way that I'm going to solve it is with the distributive property or partial products. Whatever it is you want to call it, you need to understand that distributive property and partial products, when discussing 2x1 multiplication or 3x1, 4x1, any number times one number, is distributive property and the partial products are interchangeable, those terms. Okay. So once again, we've got 43 times 5, splitting it into 40 plus 3. Okay. Now, this time, I'm not drawing a model. I'm going ahead and using parentheses and doing 40 times 5 plus 3 times 5. I still have my 43 groups. I've just broken it down into a smaller chunks, okay? So 4 times 5 gives me 20. Tack on a 0 gives me 200. Plus 3 times 5, which gives me 15, which gives me that answer again of 215. So that's what I'm using the distributive property or partial products. All right. And one more. Here I'm going to use the traditional algorithm. So what I do first is I make sure all these numbers this number gets multiplied by every top number. 5 times 3 gives me 15. I drop my 5 and I'm carrying my 1 over. 4 times 5 gives me 20 plus 1 more gives me 21, and I get 215. So that is again all three of the methods that I taught you this past chapter. So there's a review for you. So hopefully that jogged your memory. I want to now have you practice another problem on your own before we scoot on. And it's going to be 24 times 9. So take a moment to solve that problem using whichever method you are most comfortable with. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and solve this one using the traditional algorithm for you. So 9 times 4, that gives me 36. So I'm going to put my 6 here and carry my 3. 9 times 2 gives me 18, plus 3 more gives me, I'm sorry, I said 18. Yep, 21, 216. Now, it doesn't matter which method you used. As long as you got 216 as your answer, you're correct. All right. And let's do one more. And this time I'm going to throw a 3-digit at you. 569 times 6. Go ahead and take a second and solve that one. All right, let's go ahead and solve it. I am going to use area model and distributive property on this one just to make sure that people have a reminder of how to solve those if you use those methods. So putting this in expanded form, 500 plus 60 plus 9, 569. If I were to use the area model, I would be breaking my rectangle into 3 parts. 569 times 6. 5 times 6 gives me 30. Tack on 2 extra zeros, so now I have 3,000. 6 times 6 gives me 36. Tack on 1 0. 6 times 9 gives me 54. Then I'm going to stack these 3 numbers. And I'm going to solve. 3,414. So if you got that, you are right. If I want to go ahead and use the distributive property or partial products, then I'm going to go ahead and take these numbers here, and I'm just not going to draw the visual. I'm going to draw it in more of an algebraic way, or write it in more of an algebraic way. 500 times 6 plus 60 times 6 plus, ran out of room, 9 times 6. Solve each of those, get 3,000 plus 360 plus 54, and end up with 3,414. Again, doesn't matter how you solved it. If you used the traditional, awesome. If you didn't, great. Then as long as you got 3,414, you're golden. All right. Let's go ahead and do a little bit of review of when I ask you to estimate. So in this case, here is what you are going to do. You are going to estimate. Okay, when it says estimate, that is your clue to what? Right, that is your clue to round. Okay, so we are going to round to the greatest place value. All right, now sometimes I get the question of, well, what if it doesn't tell me what place value to round to? Then in that case, you choose. But in this case, I'm telling you to round to the greatest place value. So we're gonna look at 5 times 6,225. Go ahead and give that a go. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna round to the highest place value. Just a reminder on rounding, look at that highest place value. Look next door. 4 or less, let it rest. 5 or more, raise the score. That's a 2. This is going to stay a 6, and everything else is going to turn into a 0. 5 times 6,000 gives me 5 times 6 gives me 30. Tack on 3 extra zeros, 30,000. Okay? All right. I have one more problem for you. And it is a word problem. So it says, each ski pass costs $109. How much do 5 ski passes cost? Okay, so each ski pass costs $109. How much do 5 ski pass cost? So we know that 1 is 109 and that we need 5 of them. Go ahead and solve this on your own. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and solve this using traditional method. just as a reminder to you guys of what to do when you come across zeros when you are using the traditional method. So 5 times 9 gives me 45. Drop my 5, carry my 4. 0 times 5 gives me 0. But then I'm adding that 4 in, okay? So that's 0 times 5 is 0. Add 4. This is a 4. 5 times 1 gives me 545. So I can say 5 ski passes cost $545. Okay, that's kind of like a crash course in 10 minutes for you of what our last chapter was, just to review so that your brain is ready for the next part.